Hey guys, this is Cole from the Away Team Pod. We've got an awesome episode planned for you today, but I just wanted to remind you, in case you missed it, that we are doing a free jersey giveaway on our previous podcast that we recorded for the Sixers and the Pacers. So please go listen to that pod for more details. Cheers, guys.
James catches, puts up a three. Won't go. Rebound Bosh. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Tie game with 5 seconds remaining.
All right, folks, we're here with another episode of the Away Team Podcast, and today we have a special guest, Jeff Garcia, writer for the Spurs Zone on NBC News for San Antonio and host of the Locked On Spurs Podcast. How's it going, Jeff?
Doing good, guys. Thank you for having me on. And it's about time, huh? We had some scheduling, but hey, we got it done. Let's rock and roll.
That's right. Welcome to the show.
I know. I was hoping it was going to work out. It was looking a little iffy there for a sec.
Yeah, but, the bubble, man. The bubble games, they had me running around like crazy, and then it's like good and bad. I'm glad the Spurs games have been early in the day, but then it's bad because then the rest of your day is clogged up with trying to catch up with what just happened. But hey, the Spurs are clicking right now. They're still in the thick of things out in the West for the AC chase. So hopefully if the next time we do chat, we're talking about Spurs in the postseason and not on summer vacation.
I know, right?
Yeah, that must be an unfamiliar feeling.
22 years. The Spurs
and hopefully and counting, right?
Crossing fingers, buddy.
Okay, so going into the bubble, the Spurs had a 2% chance of making the playoffs. Now that is bumped up to 6%. So it's still going to be a pretty tough home stretch for them, right?
Yeah, it really is, yeah.
It's a lot of cogs in motion. There's a lot of, you're relying on other teams underperforming and your team overperforming, but there's still a very measurable chance of it happening. So
I think what's interesting about the Spurs in the bubble so far has been that I just don't think a lot of people thought they were going to do this well going into it. What were your thoughts going into the bubble?
Not this. I'll be honest with you. I did not expect them to play so well. I mean, taking the Sixers down to the wire, losing just by a bucket. Same thing, going against the Kings team that had their number in the regular season, yet they beat them. They go on to beat the Jazz. They got trounced by the Nuggets, but nevertheless, they hung tight for most of the game, losing only by 6. All in all, a very surprising and welcome team out there. You lose LMA, LaMarcus Aldridge, Trey Lyles. They sparingly play Patty Mills. Bryn Forbes has been out, and you're relying on a bunch of guys that had slim to no NBA minutes pre-pandemic. And here they are, 4-2, knocking on the door for the 8th or 9th seed for that play-in tournament. And it's still viable. I'll be the first to admit, did not see this hot start coming. And it's a testament to what the Spurs team Popovich has done to get these kids, mind you, this is the youngest Spurs team Popovich has ever coached in his career, to come together in a short amount of time, facing that than 2% odds, at least making the postseason. And here they are. So from the revelation of Keldon Johnson looking like he could be a gem for the Spurs moving forward in his career, to Derrick White just destroying the competition in the bubble, to DeMar DeRozan being clutch. Yes, you heard me right. Being clutch for the Spurs. And the first time you heard that in his career. So you put that all together and you have yourself a team that has the right mix of veterans, Rudy Gay, Marco Bellinelli, Patty Mills, DeMar DeRozan, and the mix of youth that are eager to prove themselves. Dejounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, White, Keldon Johnson, Jakob Poeltl. So far, so good for the Spurs in the bubble. Hopefully, they'll win their next 2 and get some help, because it's not as simple as they went out, they're in. It's more they went out and you hope somebody loses, and that hasn't been the case so far as getting help is concerned. So
just to establish what it would take for them to get into the playoffs, my understanding is it's going to take the Spurs winning both of their games, Portland losing both of their games, and the Suns losing one of their 2 games.
It all comes down to just the Blazers and the Suns. They got to lose at minimum 1. And I say minimum 1 because even if the Spurs don't get the AC, there's still that play-in. So even, that's still an option for them. They just need those 2 teams to lose, and they just won't lose. The Blazers beat the Sixers. The Suns beat the Thunder. And here they are. And of course, the Spurs have the Rockets. And fortunately for them, James Harden is not playing, nor is Eric Gordon. But still, there's Westbrook out there on the court. He'll be a good test for the Spurs, especially if Derrick White does play. He has a left knee contusion he suffered in the recently.
Is there any more news on that injury, by the way?
He is questionable versus the Rockets. He has a left knee contusion. It's just fancy way of saying a really bad bruise on it.
Interesting.
So the good news is that there is no tear. That's awesome because he's been lining it up to become a deadly two-way player. Hopefully, he'll play against the Rockets because they cannot afford a lot. I mean, technically they can. They'll still have to get help. But why go through that when they went out and really control their destiny?
Yeah, one thing I think is interesting about the way that the Spurs are approaching the games, even though they're kind of playing with heart and winning, Pop has made it very clear that this is a development experience. And you see, like you were talking about the roster, they have the veterans, they have the youth core. But when we were looking at the roster, when we did our episode, we noticed that they basically have no one in what is traditionally considered the NBA prime years aside from Bryn Forbes. So really it is the young guys and then the veterans that pick up the pace when the team really needs them to, like DeMar DeRozan just going crazy in the clutch after laying back, Patty Mills sitting back and letting the young guys kind of prove themselves, but they've really exceeded all expectations by a considerable amount.
They really have, and coming into the bubble, Popovich even said that he's not there to scout the competition. I mean, flat out says it. They're not there to look at the Jazz or the Nuggets, the Pelicans, that he just wanted to scout the young guns. And here they are. After the win yesterday over the Pelicans, Popovich spoke to the media and said, hey, wow, look at these young guys coming together. You're missing 3 starters, Lyles, Aldridge, and Forbes, due to injuries and surgery for LaMarcus Aldridge and for Trey Lyles appendectomy. And here they are, in a position to possibly make NBA history and see the Spurs make it to the postseason for the 23rd consecutive season. So to me, it's win-win. If they fall short, okay, fine. It's going to sting a bit, but my God, the future is bright for San Antonio. They've been great. Wow, what a testament to the Spurs way in bringing these guys together to make the postseason once again. The downside of all of that, though, is it'll hurt their draft positioning, but it's a win-win no matter how you look at it.
What would you say has been the most surprising thing about the bubble for the Spurs?
The sexy thing to say would be Keldon Johnson coming on. And
really? That's surprising.
Yeah,
I feel like most people would say Derrick White, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Out of their minds.
Exactly, yeah. Many people have said would look at at least the Spurs fan base. That's where I'm more in tune in. Many were looking at Keldon Johnson. But Derrick White, though, I predicted that this was going to happen a couple of days before the bubble. We did a roundtable with the other Spurs writers, and everybody was picking, like I mentioned, Johnson. Some people were Lucas Samanic, and some people were looking at
Lucas Samanic. That's a bold prediction, eh?
Exactly. But there I was picking Derrick White. You just saw that he was ready to turn the corner and take his game to the next level. So I'm right there with you. Derrick White has been a revelation. Defensively, big guard, can get into the best player for the opposing team on the perimeter and really slow them down. Offensively, what surprises me the most, and it's a good surprise, is that he's able to knock down three-point shots. That has been one of the area of weaknesses for him in his NBA career. And he's out there making about 2 to 3 three-point shots a game for the Spurs.
He's shooting 8 per game.
It's insane, yeah.
That's what's been so surprising to me is the Spurs this season have been one of the least three-point shooting teams in the league, and Pop's letting him fly, and he's hitting 45% of his threes. It's nuts.
And Popovich even said a couple of days ago before a game that in today's NBA, you got to make threes. So I can see why he's letting White just go off from the three-point line. Same thing for Dejounte Murray, maybe not as consistent as White, but he's starting to knock down 1 or 2 during the game. So you like seeing that. Even if it's not that, you like him see that he's expanding his game from just a slasher to a mid-range guy. So you're starting to see the beginnings of that. I'm not there yet to say he's there, but you're liking seeing him take those shots. One guy that's a little disappointing for me, just a smidge, is just Lonnie Walker. Mm-hmm. a little disappointed because before the team even went to Orlando, when they were still in San Antonio, I got a chance to talk to him. And he told me he's looking to be consistent in the bubble, or at least moving forward in his career, starting at the bubble. And again, we're seeing a lot more inconsistency. He self-admitted to local media that his mind wasn't in the right place in a couple of games and that he needed a heart-to-heart with his father to shake him out of it. So I understand he's a kid. He's still young. Things like this is going to happen to all NBA players, but he's a guy that the Spurs are really high on, and he cannot be having this. And look, against the Pelicans, he may not have lit up the scoreboard, but he was really facilitating on the fast break, finding the open man, getting rebounds, getting steals. He was a plus 16 for San Antonio versus the Pelicans, despite not putting a stat sheet that's going to make you, oh my God, wow, look at Lonnie Walker's doing. So he's been effective in that way, but I really want to see more out of him in the next 2 games or possibly beyond that as far as the postseason.
Yeah, I think one of the things that drew people to him, at least me, I think I saw him last year in the Summer League, and he had such a flashy play style. He was just nailing dunks. It was insane to watch, but it does seem like maybe his role on the Spurs is definitely more as a facilitator, kind of. He's on the court, he's making the right passes, scoring when he has to, but that flashiness that he pops into and he's the best guy on the court might not be part of his role until he's grown into it a bit more. And it does seem like there's quite a bit more growth to go, although he is, he's starting the games, which is a good sight. And Derrick White also, after not starting that many games throughout the season, now that he is starting really consistently, I'm guessing because Bryn Forbes has been absent,
Right.
It's definitely made a huge difference and impact on Derrick White's game. So I guess it remains to be seen for Lonnie Walker, whether that will come with time or next season maybe.
Crossing my fingers.
Who would you say is the best young player on the Spurs? I think that's an interesting open-ended question, eh?
Yeah, the most interesting player is, Derrick White. I mean, that's the obvious. Can he continue his development at this rate moving forward? Where is his ceiling? I mean, look what he's doing in the bubble. Can he do that when the new season begins and, when the season's over? And can he do that for 82 games, or if they shrink in the season down or whatever that amount is? So can he consistently do that? I'm interested to see if he can do that as well. Lonnie Walker, we talked about him. Where is he going? What are we doing, Lonnie? Are you going to develop an outside shot? Are you going to be consistent? What do you bring to the table? And we're trying to see what he does. I think another interesting young guy is, we kind of had a laugh at him, but is Luka Samanic. I don't know what is going on with him. If development is the key right now for San Antonio, then why is he not out there? Why is he stapled to the bench? Do they see that, okay, maybe, he's just a couple years away, and his best bet right now is just to watch and observe and see how the game is played. We want to know what's going on with him. And I think that's where Spurs fans and the management and the coaching staff want to see, where is he going? Because in the G League, he shows flashes of what he can do, why he was the Spurs top pick in last year's draft. But it doesn't really translate well into the NBA. Now, that could be a product of, when he's a big, he was playing behind Trey Lyles, Rudy Gay to a certain degree. But, yeah, where are we going with Luka? Again, I shouldn't be reading too much into this, but during games in the bubble, he just stapled there. I don't see any energy out of him. I don't see him at least wave a towel, do something, show something that you're behind the team.
I've definitely been surprised to see so many Drew Eubanks minutes. That was not something I was expecting.
Yeah, so him too. And then, of course, Keldon Johnson. I mean, wow, what? Just this kid, he has no fear. Energetic, hungry to prove himself, able to finish at the rim, absorb contact, can find a way to collapse defenses and kick out, and then offensively, starting to shoot at a better rate than he was shooting in the G League. So there's a lot of potential for this young team. But going forward, though, I still am not ready to say of the young guys, there is somebody you can build around. I'm not there yet. And dare I say that nobody on this roster right now is unable. I think if the Spurs can bring in a franchise guy, I will be okay if they say Murray, and be dealt to X team or to X team. Because I think that's what this team is missing, the alpha. They don't have an alpha on the. I'm hoping one of these young guys develop into it. That'd be great. But if it doesn't, I think the Spurs should at least think about that route.
Yeah, speaking of alpha, this is a good transition into my next question, which is DeMar DeRozan. He's been unbelievable in the bubble. 20 points per game, 54.7% from the field, 7 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 61 points in the fourth quarter in the bubble. What do you think about his play overall, and how have you liked him playing the power forward position?
Well, I love it. He's at least as of this recording, the third best fourth quarter scorer, as you mentioned. I think he's averaging at this point 10.3 points per game in that fourth period.
Wow.
He's third best overall in the league. I love it. I think he's doing well with this team, these young guys. You're seeing him become that closer, something he never had that reputation of during his time in Toronto or the quick time that he's had so far in San Antonio. You're seeing him being the guy that this young team can look at and say, hey, carry us if we're in trouble. And he's been doing that. I like him playing at the 4. I think that is a smart decision. It allows him to create. It allows him to break down defenses. It allows him to just play at a faster pace. So, had to the coaching staff for moving him into that slot. Question is, will he stay in San Antonio after this season? All signs are pointing to that he will because of the NBA economics.
So by that, do you mean that he's going to sign his player option?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
okay.
The player option on the table, yes. All signs are pointing to that he'll likely pick that up. $27 million on the table, gentlemen. That's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And, he really has a lot of thinking to do because it's just for 1 year. This season, next season, this is probably going to be his last big contract in his NBA career. So he's going to be thinking about that. And there's also this, too. Does he want to be part of a rebuilding process? This is what the Spurs are in right now. He's not getting any younger for NBA standard. He's still a young guy, but for the league standard, he's getting up there. He doesn't have a ring to his name. Does he want to stick around for that in San Antonio? Does he want to be part of a rebuilding process? I don't know. There's a lot surrounding the future of DeMar DeRozan in San Antonio, but in the immediate future, I definitely think he will pick up his player option. And if it doesn't work out, then maybe sign and trade him.
So you said that, it's a question for DeMar whether he wants to stay with a rebuilding franchise. Do you think the Spurs will want to keep him on for a multi-year contract after the end of his player option year? Because that is like a huge consideration for their cap space as they're trying to pick up new pieces,
I don't know. That is a big question because the Spurs, not this offseason, but next offseason, could be big players in the free agent market. They're going to have so much cap space. And a lot of that has to do with DeMar. I mean, that's going to be $27 million off their book. And LaMarcus Aldridge's contract expires next year. That's another big chunk of change coming off their books. And a lot of the young guys they have, they're on rookie contracts, first-year deals after their rookie contract. So there's going to be a lot of flexibility. Could the Spurs say, hey, big name free agent, come on over here. We have the space, and look at all these young guys that we developed. If it was up to me, I wish that the Spurs had went the OK route and just kind of blow it up and accumulate tons of draft pick and financial space. They didn't do that, but I think they have a chance to beat players in the NBA again if they play smart and maybe be okay if DeMar doesn't come back and LMA doesn't come back because these kids are showing that they can get the job done. And with that type of money, I think you could throw a bag of money at somebody on the free agency market. The thing is that, back in the Spurs glory years, they've had Tim Duncan, Tony, and Manu. Those were enticing players that you can tell a free agent, hey, come play with these guys, like Tim Duncan, Manu, and Tony. Popovich. Then there's Popovich. How much longer does he have? Does he have 2 more years in him? Will he sail off in the sunset and retire? He has nothing else to prove. He's going to be the best coach in NBA history. But who takes over? This team is in flux, and you're seeing it, and I'm excited for it. I love seeing this new chapter. We're getting away from the Spurs victory where their dynasty is over. It's on to bigger and better things now. But do they want to take the slow process, or do you want to take the fast process? I think for them, playing the long game that they're doing right now, developing these guys, is great. But if you want to play the longer game next season, they're going to have a lot to think about. If LaMarcus Aldridge decides to not resign, and if DeMar DeRozan decides to leave and chase a ring and get a bigger and better deal. I'm intrigued, gentlemen. I like what we have so far in the young guys, but I still think they're a big-time player away from becoming big contenders again in the Western Conference, let alone the NBA.
You spoke about presenting a case for free agents, not this offseason, but next offseason. Part of that is going to be what they present to them in the next regular season, right?
Right.
As good as their young players are, it's going to be difficult for them to make a case to free agents if they're relying solely on those guys. The only way that they're good next season is if DeMar DeRozan plays well and LaMarcus Aldridge play well too. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, and I will say this too. If you're LaMarcus Aldridge and you're looking from the outside in, literally, because he's not in the bubble, you're seeing how this team is playing well without him. Look, I don't think Rudy Gay meant to throw any shade at his teammate, but earlier in the bubble, Rudy Gay spoke about not having LMA there. And one thing he said, he made it very clear that he loves LMA. He likes him as a teammate. So there's no animosity here. But he did comment that they're playing better in an open court without having a big man that they have to slow down and get him involved. So there's that. And LMA loves to be talking about his past Portland days, and he's made it very clear he'll love to close out his NBA career back with the Blazers and joining Dame Lillard.
You've mentioned the offense is more opened up without him. I think that's very interesting, and the stats support that comment. On offense, without LaMarcus Aldridge, they go from a 67th percentile offense in terms of points per 100 possessions to an 83rd percentile offense. It's weird because I think there's an argument for their offense should be better with LaMarcus out there because he's actually a good three-point shooter and there's more spacing than you would have with, say, Pirtle or Eubanks at the 5. But it's just not. It's just very strange to me.
It is the NBA. When you look at the position of the basketball that everybody's living in right now, you would think that LMA and his expanded three-point game, which he's showing off this season, would lend to the Spurs being a better offensive team with him. But no, it isn't. And I think that's just the nature of the game. He's still, for lack of better words, a throwback to a time where the NBA was about the big man. And I think he came on towards the tail end of that, the Shaq and Rasheed Wallace's and players like that of that ilk. And I think that's a big reason why he started knocking down this season, why he expanded his game that way, because he has to adapt and survive in this league, and he is doing that. The problem is he's not there yet. You're absolutely right. If for some reason LMA leaves or that he is traded, you're left with bigs that do not offer that spacing. Pearl cannot hit a mid-range shot. I don't think I've ever seen him attempt one or two in a game. And Eubanks the same thing too. But they also have a guy by the name of Trey Lyles, who is knockdown three-point big man, stretch 4, possibly stretch 5.
And he played more than Aldridge in the regular season.
And can run on the fast break. So they have a viable option with Trey Lyles. Trey Lyles told me that he's looking to stay in San Antonio long term. I believe he has a 1 year left, or this is it. I know something with his contract is coming up this offseason, so we'll see what they do with him. But I think he'll stick around. But LMA, a lot of questions around LMA's future in San Antonio, and if he really is helping the Spurs get wins versus losses.
I know you're short on time, so we'll try to wrap things up now. Any predictions if they don't make the bubble for their off season this year?
Yeah, I think they're going to really take a look at Jakob Poeltl's future in San Antonio. He is a restricted free agent. He's blending in well with the young guys. Many Spurs fans see him as part of that youth movement that San Antonio is going through right now. But he's made it very clear that he's looking for an expanded role, whether it be in San Antonio or not. And he's looking for more minutes. And with LMA being back next season, he may find himself in the same position he did prior to the pandemic. And he openly said he does not want to be in that situation. If an opposing team throws money at him and the Spurs don't want to match, they'll definitely be okay with that. They told Boban Marjanovic to leave after the Pistons threw him a big offer. They did that to Dwayne Dedman. They did that to other big men in their system.
Aaron Baines.
Aaron Baines, exactly. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, Aaron Baines. So, again, it'll be tough if he leaves but I think they'll try their best to keep him in San Antonio. Interesting, too, in the offseason is you may be looking at the final days of Bellinelli and Forbes in a Spurs uniform. Again, it's nothing against them, but look at the amount of guards they have on the roster, not just Bellinelli and Forbes. Mills, Walker, Johnson, it can split between the 2 and the 4 and the 3 possibly sometimes. Derrick White, Dejounte Murray. Who knows what they're going to do in the draft? Do they draft another guard? So I think you're looking at the final days of Bellinelli and Forbes in a Spurs uniform. Unless Forbes is going to take a very friendly contract offer, kind of a hometown discount, and be okay with coming off that bench because he's been a starter for most of the season. And if he's okay to be taking a reduced role, then fine. He provides that three-point threat that they need. But I would look at perhaps this being it for him in San Antonio. And, of course, in the offseason, I think they're really going to work with Keldon Johnson, get his development on a faster, rapid pace. I think they're seeing it. Hey, look at Popovich. This is Keldon Johnson. He's not a Tim Duncan or Kawhi Leonard or a Manu or a Tony. And Popovich entrusted him enough to start giving him heavy minutes in his rookie season. So they see something out there. They see something with them. Popovich told us that they're high on Keldon. No, I'm sorry, that wasn't Popovich. It was Coach Will Hardy, assistant coach. Said they're very high on him. So you're still going to see the process of the Spurs try to transition from the Big Three into this new era.
All right, sweet. You got anything else?
No, but I do think that the point about having a lot of guards is interesting because I was just looking at their starting lineups, and they're basically, when DeMar DeRozan's playing before and you got just 3 other guards out there, it's definitely a sign that the roster construction is heavy on these smaller guys.
Mm-hmm.
But it works. It's working for them pretty well.
It's working, yeah, and crossing fingers, they'll give these last 2, and Portland and Phoenix just got to lose 1. Dallas, do us a favor. Toronto, do something for us because we need to get a loss for Portland and Phoenix. If not, then oh well. They spur that Sixers loss is sure going to haunt them for quite some time.
Yeah, Spurs Lakers first round would be pretty cool, eh?
It really would. Throw back to the old early 2000s. But wow, what a first round date, huh? Oh, you only got LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Congratulations for making the postseason.
Yeah, that might be tough for him. All right, Jeff. Well, we'll let you go. But before we go, would you like to just plug anything you're working on? Maybe your Twitter handle?
Sure. Thank you, guys. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffGSpursZone and subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcasts, iTunes. Hey, you can even tell Alexa, smart speaker, play Locked On Spurs. Boom, it will play Locked On Spurs for you. So there's no excuse for you to not subscribe and listen to Locked On Spurs. And, of course, go to the Spurs Zone, News for San Antonio and Fox29SanAntonio.com, where you can see everything about the Silver and Black from what Derrick White had to say about Quindary Weatherspoon and his style of play, and to what J.J. Redick did for Popovich in the bubble. So go check it out, the Spurs Zone.
And now you've got me intrigued.
Yeah, my interest is very piqued.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the pod, Jeff. And, I guess we'll talk to you soon. Maybe we can work something out to talk in the off season.
I'm down. Just let me know, guys.
All right. Have a good one.
All right, take care.
You too. Bye-bye.